Hi. It's been a while. It's nice to see you again. I've been busy, like really busy. I took a trip to Korea. I had a bunch of people come out to visit me, one after the other. I also had a couple of really intense weeks at work. I'm on my scheduled break from work right now for winter, and things will be a little bit slower until the end of March. Minus starting grad school in January, of course. I'm a bit nervous about that still. I think I'll actually be filming something about that in the next few days. But for today, I really wanted to talk to you about some libraries that I went to. In the beginning of the video, you saw some footage of when I went to the Osaka Prefectural Nakanoshima Library. I didn't plan out this adventure, honestly. I just happened to have an extended lunch break one day at work, and I remembered that there was a library relatively nearby and went to check it out. It really is a gorgeous building. I thought it could be nice to study in there for a little while, but I guess lots of other people had the same idea, so I wasn't able to get a seat, but I enjoyed the views regardless. I tried to find any official translated documents about the building, but came up pretty empty, so you'll just have to trust my translation skills and what I personally found interesting, rather than taking this as, I don't know, an official, detailed account of what the building is. The library was originally built in 1904. There were actually some very cool pictures posted up on the bulletin boards inside that were from those years, but photography and video weren't allowed in those spots, unfortunately. From what I understand, it seemed like it functioned as a gathering place for law and business studies, and the library would hold regular meetings for the community. Granted, the community in the early 1900s would have been men and older boys, but it's still cool regardless. The photos actually showed a meeting where what looked to be about high school-aged boys in their school uniforms were studying along with their tutors. It's kind of nice to see that some things never change. Most of the boys have the same haircuts and the same style of uniforms. That the junior high and high schools around here still have. There's a bit of a blank in the history between the years of 1927 and 1950, but that isn't exactly surprising given the war. Around the 1950s, we see a bit more activity in the library's official historical documents, and in 1970, the library was determined to be a cultural asset to the country. It seems like the library was relocated at one point and was definitely renovated in 1996. It now also has a very cute museum-style gift shop and a cafe on the main floor. The books and collections in the library are almost entirely business-centered, and it still serves as a support center for businesses located in Osaka. What I ended up journaling about, and what is probably on the screen right now, is another surprise library I came across while I was in South Korea. The Jinbokje Hall was built in 1891 and served as King Gojong's study room. He would also use it as a meeting room and a place to welcome foreign ambassadors. I did a very shallow dive into King Gojong's history, and that was, well, overwhelming, to say the least. South Korea's history is intense and a bit difficult for me to follow, but my understanding is that he was the last king of Joseon, and then he was the first emperor of the Korean Empire until he was forced to abdicate in 1907. This seemed fitting to go into this video since this is around the time that the Nakanoshima Library was built, and this is also around the time when Japan decided to expand their empire. Again. Did I mention that the Nakanoshima Library has a whole section about wartime documents and materials, despite being a business-focused library? Back to Jinbokje Hall. The hall was converted into a public library and opened in April of 2016. There's about 1,000 books about Joseon art, culture, and history. Items that would have been used around this time, including record books, are on display in the library as well. I was especially surprised, though, because there are also about 350 books in the library in English, Japanese, simplified Chinese, and traditional Chinese. Plus, all of the signage in the library was displayed in each of these languages as well, so I didn't have to worry about making any translation errors. Something I thought was a bit strange, however, is that this is considered a public library, even though you need to buy a ticket to enter the park that the library is housed within. Now, that's not completely unheard of for a private library, but I think calling it a public library is a bit of a stretch. Generally, public libraries are free and open to the public, run by donations or government funding, but it's clear that this one is organized and kept up through park attendance and tourism. The park itself isn't particularly expensive to get into. I think it was about 5,000 won, which is about 5 USD. But that's enough in my mind to classify it as a private collection, or more of a museum. Not to mention that, of course, you can't borrow any books from the library. They must be read and kept inside the library at all times. It was beautiful, though, and everyone treated it as a library, speaking in hushed tones and gently tapping about in their slippers. The friend I was traveling with actually picked out some of the English books and was reading them. They took a picture and sent it to me. Unfortunately, the photo they took doesn't seem to have an author listed, but it seems to be from a book of translated poetry from the Joseon era. I think I'd like to read it to you. Today again, I greet another day, the spring of mystery. On this day, just as a drop of that river water connects to a tiny spring in a mountain valley and to the distant blue ocean, past, future, present are one. As such, my today is connected to eternity. At this very moment, I am living that eternity. Thus, I shan't wait until I die, but starting today, live the eternal, live a life rightfully eternal. I must live the life of the poor in spirit. I must live with my heart emptied. There's not too much talking from me today. I hope that's all right. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.